The thing that really unsettles me about this recent Drake and Kendrick beef is the fact that I feel like J. Cole is now catching crossfire, and I don't like that at all. J. Cole basically wrote a whole love letter to hip-hop in his first-person shooter verse about how there's no number one and how we're all the best. And Kendrick came out of nowhere and said, "Shut up nigga, who's we?" And that makes J. Cole look like an idiot. People are now making fun of him, but here's the thing. I don't think Kendrick was even aiming at J. Cole. J. Cole called crossfire. He was aiming at Drake. And I feel like I know this to be true because looking at the history of Kendrick and Drake's lyrics, you can find a lot of sneak disses at each other. Kendrick's verse on the new Metro Booming album isn't the first time he's had words for Drake, and whenever Drake chooses to respond, it won't be his first time having words for Kendrick either. No one really knows when the beef started, but there's one pivotal moment that showed the world that Kendrick and Drake were at odds. Yes, I'm talking about Kendrick's Control verse. It's true that Kendrick went at everyone in the rap game, but Drake was already one of the biggest artists in the world at the time, so after the verse, Drake was asked more than most rappers about how he felt about the verse in interviews, and in the countless times he had to respond to that question, you could always tell that he was bothered by the verse.
It was real cool for like, you know, a couple weeks. But like, if I asked you, for example, like, how does that verse start?
Not just by being dissed by a guy who was at the time beneath him. Being dissed by a guy who was at one time his opener on his Take Care tour. And to make things worse, it's rare for a lesser known rapper to say he's gunning for Drake level status and actually achieve it, but this time it actually happened. Fast forward a couple years after the Control verse, Kendrick was as big as Drake in mainstream popularity. Obviously this must have had its toll on Drake's ego. And again, we don't know when the beef started, so we don't know what Drake must have done to hurt Kendrick's ego, but clearly something must have happened. And just like that, the beef began. A decade-long's worth of sneak dissing at each other on various songs and features. But here's the point I want to make. If you look at Drake's lyrics in the past decade, you can find Kendrick disses. And if you look at Kendrick lyrics in the past decade, you can definitely find Drake disses. But if you look at J. Cole lyrics in the past decade, you won't find any disses at either Drake nor Kendrick. J. Cole might have had some strong words for Kanye in his False Prophets verses, but that has nothing to do with this. And this solidifies my opinion that Kendrick probably doesn't really have anything against J. Cole. Maybe he's upset that J. Cole's cool with Drake, but again, that speaks more to Kendrick's hate for Drake than any hate for J. Cole. J. Cole's proximity to Drake might have ticked Kendrick off, but J. Cole didn't really do anything, and that really upsets me. This is obviously all speculation, but I feel like Kendrick's new verse is more at Drake, and J. Cole is just collateral damage. And J. Cole's one of my favorite rappers, possibly even my favorite rapper. So you can imagine how confused and upset I was when I heard the verse. And don't get me wrong, Kendrick's verse on Like That goes dummy hard. How the whole song is great. How the whole project is great. Metro Booming really doesn't miss. But this upsets me because I'm scared of social media. Social media has a habit of rewriting and reinterpreting history to fit whatever narrative it wants to fit. I don't know if you guys remember this, but around 2015 to maybe 2018-ish, there was a narrative that J. Cole's music is boring. Around this era, people were naturally comparing the big three, but many times people would go on to say that J. Cole doesn't deserve to be in the conversation because all he does is make fake, wannabe conscious music. That was the consensus around J. Cole's entire image until something spectacular happened. J. Cole got in his bag and changed the narrative. He picked up his pen and went on his legendary 2018 feature run. Back-to-back phenomenal verses on other artists' songs. As far as 2018-2019 features go, J. Cole owned everyone. And on top of that, this was the same time Dreamville was starting to pick up popularity as a label. Artists like JID and Ari Lennox were blowing up. Naturally, this made J. Cole look good in extension. And just like that, the narrative changed. People weren't calling J. Cole boring anymore. He showed the world his talent and extreme versatility. Making fun of J. Cole wasn't cool anymore. You look like the idiot if you called his music lame. And this leads me back to the Kendrick-Drake beef. I'm scared that this new Kendrick verse might reset the narrative again. Because ever since Like That dropped, social media has been moving differently again. I see a lot of people clowning J. Cole for being the nice guy in a rough game called hip-hop. People clowning J. Cole because he said there's no best in hip-hop, just for Kendrick to say, no, there is a best, me. People clowning him for putting himself in the big three conversation when according to some people he shouldn't be there, even though J. Cole's proven himself time and time again that he is in the big three. I mean, you know you're one of the greatest in your current generation when a GOAT like Eminem compliments himself in a song by saying he's been at the same level that J. Cole's been at. When Eminem compliments himself by saying he's like you, clearly you're in the big three. I mean, what more evidence do I need? But I don't know. Am I overthinking the situation? Has J. Cole's respect been solidified in hip-hop? Or will this change the narrative again? And out of curiosity, in this new beef against the big three, who do you think's gonna win? Let me know in the comment section below. And as usual, I'm an extremely small YouTuber, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Every single like counts. And thank you for watching.